you know. So this is when the weirdest times for retrogrades for any planet, where the energy's kind of woo, as well as woo woo. It's kind of wah. So the 3 days before, 3 days after, when it does its shift on both sides of it. And then of course you have this little, shadow period that everyone talks about. And retrogrades bring opportunities too. There's always things that can be going on, and I've been doing people's vertex charts this year, looking at their part of fortune, their vertex, like their karma versus where everything's really easy, the midpoints between those. And your vertex is where when it's aspected by somebody else's chart or by a planetary transit, is when we meet a lot of people that tend to be from our soulmate family, and they stay in our lives a lot of times for quite, like, maybe forever after that, or the intensity is intense, like intensities, like, with these kind of soulmate vibes where you hook up and it's a toxic soulmate, but like you cannot get yourself to like let the guy go or the girl go, it's like something where you're just like it's very passionate, very intense, but just it's kind of like a fire that's going to burn itself out. And stalkers your stalkers, all those stalkers that we happen to unfortunately sometimes attract. And if you have certain aspects, that you're more likely to attract those types of people. So Venus goes direct on the 12th, and also that is the day of the full moon in Libra, which, as I mentioned on one of the other videos that I made for you, it is just such a divine, cosmic, yummy timing because of the fact that Venus rules Libra. It goes direct that day. It's very special. And it's always really challenging, I feel like, when Venus does its retrograde transits. I feel like it's really important to check up on your friends, especially your female friends that are Libras and Tauruses, because they're ruled by Venus, and so they're kind of, not to be weird, like or put anything dark out there, but they're a bit more vulnerable during those times. So check in on them, make sure they're okay. And so that's what's happening there. And then also, so the 12th, Venus direct, full moon in Libra. On the 15th, Juno is entering Scorpio. Mercury is going into Aries on April 16th. And it's actually, Venus is actually in at, is that Venus? It's saying the Venus. No, Mercury is entering Aries, but, oh yeah, because I wrote this down. I have to take notes because there's a lot of detailed things here. But yeah, Mercury actually completely is out of the shadow of the retrograde on the 26th of April, and that is at 9 degrees Aries, which is where it was when it went retrograde in the first place. So the 17th, Jupiter has a funky relationship with Pluto because Jupiter is in Gemini, and it was just conjunct the moon actually in Gemini a couple of days ago, which was just so beautiful and expansive for hanging out with friends and having a great time. It was beautiful. On April 18th, Mars goes into Leo. Yay. And because Mars rules Aries, it seems like it's always just so harmonious when it's in another fire sign. So, and then on the 19th, the Sun is going into Taurus. So Taurus season will start. And on April 20th, we have the last quarter moon. On the 21st, Saturn conjunct the true node. On the 27th, our new moon in Taurus. April 27th, new moon in Taurus. remember, and Venus also rules Taurus. And then on the 30th of April, we have Venus entering Aries. So we have the, like, wham, bam, bam. And then we've also got Uranus on the 1st of May, May Day, Uranus sextile the true node. So that's a lot of things going on. It's an interesting, there's a lot of disruption happening in general. And, Uranus is the planet that rules the tower. So there's a lot of things going on. The most important thing for you to keep in mind, though, really, is Uranus is like flying by the seat of your pants, literally. But the other thing that's cool is that Neptune is at 0 degrees Aries. And I mentioned that before, but I don't want to just gloss over that because that's a big deal. It only happens 165 years, next 165 years from now is when it will happen again. It goes to 1 degree at the end of the month. So it's moving slowly, but it is moving. So take advantage of this pure potentiality because Aries is the beginning of the zodiac. It's the very beginning. So it's like a reset. So use that magical fluid. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. Use that fluid, mystical, trippy, woo, very, like, you cannot get more woo-woo than Neptune, okay? And so it's like pure instincts. It's like really, it's a time to tap into your instincts, reboot your intuition by tapping into your instincts and your first thought, best thought before you get logic and screw it all up. Because that's what happens. People start overthinking things and then they're like, I can't tap into my intuition. I'm not sure if it's fair or if it's... So the last thing that I wanted to mention about this Neptune at 0 degrees in Aries is that this is where Neptune was, as well as Uranus and Pluto right after the American Revolution, when they were writing the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and when they had the French Revolution. And it was just they were such visionaries. And that's the great thing about this placement. It is such a visionary placement. But it requires that. It requires individual participation. And from everyone. Everyone has a right to participate in government, to help form laws and make your voice heard. It's not a thing where it doesn't matter. It friggin' matters. Because I don't like being told what to do by one dude. Do you?